a scary thing that happened to me. Hi, everyone. I'm really into hearing paranormal experiences, especially mimic encounters, but I'm open to anything strange or unexplained. UFOs, skinwalkers, near death experiences, you name it. I recently had a terrifying experience of my own, and it's only deepened my curiosity about this stuff. Here's what happened. A few nights ago, my husband was at work. He's a truck driver and was on the road, and I was home alone playing video games online with some friends. We were just hanging out in the game lobby when I suddenly heard my husband's voice call out from the other room. "Babe, can you come in here for a second?" I had my headset on, but I clearly heard it. His exact voice. I told my friends to hold on, because I thought my husband had come home early. Our bedroom has a clear view into the living room. It's an open floor plan, so I glanced out. The room was completely empty. No one was there. I figured I must have imagined it, so I sat back down to play. Just as I was about to put my headset back on, I heard it again. "Babe, come here." Same voice, same tone, and it was coming from the same direction. This time I got a chill. I looked again, still no one. I thought maybe my husband was trying to prank me or something, so I called his phone, expecting to hear it ring from somewhere nearby. But I didn't. He answered, and I immediately heard the hum of his truck's engine in the background. When I asked where he was, he said he was still on the road, driving back from Illinois. Just to be sure, I asked him to honk his horn. He did, and I heard it loud and clear through the phone. At that point, panic set in. I didn't even say goodbye to my friends. I shut off my system, grabbed my stuff, and ran out the back door. I got in my car and drove to a nearby park, where I waited until my husband got home. When I told him what happened, he didn't even question it. He believed me immediately. He said, "That was a mimic. You did the right thing by leaving." He's always been a big believer in the paranormal, and he told me something that still gives me goosebumps. Once a mimic knows you can hear it, it won't stop. It'll keep mimicking people you love, trying to lure you, confuse you, even drive you insane. And sometimes worse. My office is haunted. I work in a doctor's office next to a hospital that's nearly a century old. The hospital has history. The emergency wing behind it is even older. If there are ghosts lingering there, I wouldn't be surprised. What does surprise me is that whatever's over there seems to have followed me here. The building I work in is relatively new, barely 10 years old, a sleek 3-story facility filled with private specialists and independent doctor offices. It isn't connected to the hospital at all, structurally or administratively. It sits about 50 feet away. Enough distance, you'd think, to stay out of the reach of whatever energies swirl around the ER and old hospital halls. But 6 months ago, I realized our building isn't untouched. It was early in the morning, just before 8 a.m. I was alone in our third-floor office, setting up for the day, when the lobby door handle rattled. Loudly, like someone was jiggling it to get in. I looked up, expecting to see a patient come through. No one did. After a few seconds, I got up and checked the hallway. The door opens into a long, narrow corridor. We're the only office on the third floor. There's nowhere to hide. And yet, it was empty. The same thing happened again, and again, until the first scheduled patient finally walked in, through that same door, calm as anything. Later that morning, I was telling my coworkers about it. We all kind of laughed it off, until an appointment card lifted itself out of the holder on the desk, flipped in the air, and landed right in front of us. We all went silent. Nobody had touched it. There was no draft. It's never happened again. That's when the other strange things began. I started hearing voices in the stairwell, low, mumbled conversations, just out of reach. I'd stop, listen, and peek downstairs. Nothing. No one. Then footsteps. Always behind me. Always when I was alone. My coworkers heard it too. At least I knew I wasn't imagining things. One afternoon during lunch, a coworker was the only one in the lobby when the television switched itself on, cycled through channels, and shut off. The remote was locked in a cubby drawer. It's an older TV. No smart features, no voice control, no explanation. Other times, the office chairs roll on their own. Not just a little movement either. We've all seen them turn and glide a foot or two, like someone pushed them away from the desk. Twice now, we've heard the coffee table in the waiting area drag across the floor. And both times when we went to check, it had moved. Noticeably, not far, but enough that none of us could explain how it happened. But tonight was different. It stormed all afternoon. Heavy winds, thunder that shook the windows. Everyone else had left early, but I stayed behind to finish closing up. When I finally grabbed my things, I decided to take the stairs at the far end of the hallway. I usually use the elevator, but during storms, it gets finicky. So I took the stairs. Big mistake. 3/4 of the way down the hall, I heard it. Rapid footsteps behind me. Fast. Light. Like someone running in socks. I turned around. No one was there. The footsteps stopped as soon as I looked, but the hairs on my neck stayed up. I started walking faster. Heart in my throat. I reached the stairwell door, opened it, and began my descent. As I passed the second floor, the third floor door above me slammed open. Hard. The echo of it shook the walls. I screamed. I stood frozen for a few seconds, too scared to move. Then instinct kicked in. I ran. I ran like something was at my heels. Just as I hit the first landing, the third floor door crashed open again. Boom! Louder this time. I thought I heard footsteps coming down, but I can't be sure. It might have been my own panic pounding through the stairwell. I didn't stop running until I was out of the building. Tomorrow, I have to go in early. I'll be alone for at least 30 minutes, and they're forecasting storms again. I'll have to use the stairs, and I'm terrified. My grandpa. He was a tough, stubborn man. One of those old school types who refused to see a doctor unless it was for his teeth. That stubbornness eventually caught up with him. He had a leg injury he kept to himself, and by the time we found out, it had developed into sepsis. He was rushed to the hospital, but things quickly took a turn. Late that night, we got the call from his nurse. Things weren't looking good, and he probably wouldn't make it through to morning. We rushed to pick up my grandma and got to the hospital just in time. He held on long enough for all of us to be there. 15 minutes after we arrived, at exactly 3:04 a.m., he passed. We stayed with him for a couple of hours afterward, reminiscing, laughing, and telling stories about all the quirky, lovable things he used to do. That's when my dad came back from the parking lot with the weirdest story. My grandpa could never figure out how to open the back hatch of my grandma's Subaru, no matter how many times I showed him. It was always the same. Just press the little button on the handle, Grandpa. But he'd always grumble and call it a PETA, pain in the ass, and give up. Well, my dad went down to warm up the car for my grandma. The moment he started the engine, the back hatch opened on its own. He figured he must have hit the button on the fob by accident, so he got out and closed it. But as he backed out of the parking spot, it opened again. Weird. He got out, closed it once more, and drove up to the hospital entrance to pick us up. As he parked, it opened again. I guess Grandpa finally figured it out. John the Ghost. Back in 2018, my family bought a charming old 1928 duplex. Quaint. Cozy. The kind of place that seemed to hum with history the moment you stepped inside. It had this warm, lived-in energy. Like the house had memories of its own. We toured dozens of homes before that one, but something about this place felt different. During the final walkthrough, the previous owner looked at us with this odd, almost knowing smile and said, "If you take care of the house will take care of you." I didn't think much of it at the time. I should have. Soon after we moved in, things got strange. My dad and brother moved in first. To be fair, my dad was going through a rough time. Recently divorced, weighed down by depression. But the house, it took a hit. Food left out, clutter everywhere, soda cans on the ground. It wasn't normal behavior for either of them. It felt like something in the house made everything heavier, more chaotic. That's when things started happening. The first incident was small, almost funny. A metal mixing spoon somehow launched itself out of a deep bowl and landed in the center of the kitchen floor. No one was near it. No explanation. Then came the shadows. A tall, dark figure would move through the house, silent, just at the edge of your vision. Always there, always watching. One afternoon, my brother called me, terrified. He said the soda cans were rolling across the living room floor on their own, not just sliding, rolling violently, bouncing off furniture. Then he saw an old man sitting in the chair on the back porch, just watching him. He was so scared he called the police. A week later, my dad saw him too. An old man in sweatpants and a gray shirt, standing quietly in the sunroom, not moving, just being there. After that, he started taking better care of the place. The junk disappeared, the clutter stopped. I started keeping the house tidy too, and slowly, the activity quieted down. It was like the house was breathing easier. We didn't see or hear much for a while. Not until we started painting the upstairs, months later. That stirred things up. While repainting the hallway, my grandmother saw a dark figure walk right out of my brother's room and pass through the banister, like it wasn't there. We didn't talk about it much. It was easier that way. Then came the neighbor kid. He was one of those wild, unpredictable kids, always yelling, always starting something. One day, he stormed up to our front door, screaming that my brother had taken something of his. He was maybe 10 or 11 at the time, and absolutely furious, kicking the door, trying to force his way in. My brother panicked. He was afraid not to let him in. The kid tore through the house, looking for whatever he thought my brother had taken. Then he went into the basement and came flying back up the stairs. He was pale, crying, and shaking, shouting that there was an angry old man down there. After that, he refused to even step on our porch for 3 years, until the day he moved. It wasn't just us. Other neighbors started talking. And then one day, my dad had a chat with the former owner. She admitted that she'd had similar experiences. Same figure, same feelings. That's when we started digging into the history of the house. Turns out, in the early 90s, an 86-year-old man named John had passed away right there, on the back patio. He'd spilled something in the basement, opened the rear door for ventilation, and sometime later, was found slumped outside. Quiet, unassuming, and very much still around. Suddenly, it all clicked. The shadow, the man on the porch, the figure in the sunroom, the feeling that the house was more alive than wood and brick. It was John. He wasn't malevolent. He was just there, watching, guarding. After that, John became kind of a family in-joke. We started saying hi to him whenever we walked in. We'd sign his name on birthday cards as a joke. Love, Dad, me, and John. And you know what? John grew on us. He felt like part of the home. If something went missing, we'd say, John borrowed it. If the lights flickered, John's just checking in. Eventually, I moved into my own place. At first, I couldn't figure out why my new home felt off. It wasn't scary or negative, it just felt empty. Hollow, like the walls didn't have anything to say. That's when I realized this was my first non-haunted house, and I hated it. Not all spirits are scary. Some just want to be remembered. Some are the house, the soul of it. And John was a good soul. I was never alone. When my grandma passed away, she left me her old farmhouse. It's a worn-down place, peeling paint, sagging porch, and surrounded by acres of overgrown field. It sits way out in the countryside, a good half-hour drive from the nearest town. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel peaceful, more like the silence is watching you back. We lived there when I was a little kid. My parents moved us out when I was 5. I never really understood why. They never explained it, and honestly, I barely remembered much from those years. Just scattered flashes. My grandma's lemon soap, the creaking stairs, the attic door at the end of the hallway that was always closed. When I inherited the house, I decided I'd go out there alone to start fixing it up. Maybe even live there eventually. It felt like a chance to reconnect with family, with history. Besides, I didn't really believe in all that haunted house stuff. Not until the first night. That first evening, I unpacked a mattress and some essentials, set up in the downstairs bedroom, and settled in. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to a sound. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, coming from the attic directly above me. I froze in bed, listening. Then, summoning what little bravery I had, I grabbed my flashlight and climbed the stairs. The attic was empty. Dust everywhere. Cobwebs like curtains. Old trunks and boxes stacked along the walls. Nothing that could have made the sound. I chalked it up to the old house settling. The second night, the footsteps came again, this time earlier. And then came the whispering. Faint, like someone murmuring just out of earshot. Male? Female? I couldn't tell. I pressed my ear to the attic door. The whispering stopped immediately, like it knew I was listening. I yanked the door open. Again, nothing. By the third night, I was running on coffee and nerves. I'd barely slept. But something pushed me to keep digging through the house, almost obsessively. That's when I found it. An old photo, tucked behind a heavy dresser I was trying to move. It was my family. Me, maybe 4 years old. My mom, my dad, all smiling, standing on the porch of this very house. But there was someone else in the photo. A fourth figure, standing just behind us, almost hidden in the shadows, but unmistakably there. A tall figure with a pale face, dark hollow eyes, and a twisted smile that didn't match the rest of us. It looked wrong. Off. Inserted somehow. And I swear, the longer I stared at the photo, the closer that figure seemed to lean in behind me. I laughed, nervously. Maybe it was a friend of the family, maybe some neighbor I'd forgotten. I called my mom, photo in hand. She answered, cheerful at first, until I brought up the picture. I described the fourth figure. Dead silence on the line. Then, in the smallest voice I've ever heard from her, she said, "We never locked the attic. We just never opened it." Before I could ask what she meant, the call dropped. No static, no beeping. Just gone. And then I heard them again. The footsteps, above me. But this time, they didn't stay in the attic. I could hear them coming down the hall. Writing everything down before I disappear. This isn't fiction. I don't care if you think it is. I just need someone to hear me. No one believes me. Not my mom. Not my friends. Not even the therapist my cousin begged me to see. I used to think stories like this were just urban legends, like that woman who disappeared after getting off at Kisaragi Station, or the ones about people who hear whispers inside Kyoto's Kiyotaki Tunnel, only to lose time and their minds. But this isn't about them. This is about me. And I don't think I have much time left. I can feel it deep in my bones. I'm running out of time. So I'm writing it down, everything I can, before I vanish too. My name is Yuki. I'm 20 years old. I live in Saitama Prefecture, Japan, in a totally normal neighborhood. No haunted houses, no creepy forests. Nothing strange. Except for one thing. Something has been following me since I was 5. And now, I think it's strong enough to take me. It all started at Saitama Midori Yochien, my kindergarten. Every morning, my mom and I would walk past the old train crossing, the vending machine that always smelled like hot plastic and sugar, and through the rusted green gate. That's when I first saw her. A woman in a faded blue yukata, the hem caked with dirt. She stood completely still behind the fence near the corner of the playground. Her face was hidden beneath long black hair. She never moved, never spoke, but she always looked at me. Only me. I told my mom. She knelt beside me, gave me that tired smile all moms do, and said, "Yuki-kun, there's no one there." But I saw her every single day, until one morning, she smiled. That night, I woke up freezing. My futon was drenched. There were muddy footprints on the tatami, leading from the window straight to where I was sleeping. I screamed. My mom rushed in. She thought it was a leak, maybe a broken pipe. But it wasn't water. It smelled like earth, like the soil at my grandfather's grave. After that, she stopped appearing at school, but that's when I started hearing her. Soft whispers during nap time. My name, spoken in a voice like breath through teeth. Laughter echoing from empty classrooms. One day during lunch, I looked down at my plate and saw it. A single, long strand of wet, black hair wrapped around my onigiri. I stopped eating after that. There's more. So much more. I want to explain everything. From kindergarten to now. What happened in elementary school, middle school, even last month. But I don't have time right now. Something's getting closer. I can feel it, watching. Please, someone believe me. I need to know I'm not crazy. If anyone out there has seen something like this, heard the whispers, felt it, tell me I'm not alone. And sorry if my English sounds weird. I'm translating this from Japanese with Google Translate. I'll write more soon, if I'm still here.